I'm so excited. Why? Because Linnea's full kit is leaked, and it's really amazing. So in this video, we're going to go through Linnea's full kit details step by step, and more importantly, explain how all of this connects once you actually imagine her inside a real team. Listen, in this video, you'll clearly understand what her basic kit is trying to do, how her skill and passives shape her role, how her gameplay would flow in practice, what each constellation changes, and why the current community reaction looks the way it does. The objective here isn't just reading numbers, it's understanding how the character is meant to function once combat actually starts. But before we go deeper, a quick word for our sponsor.
You can actually save up to 25% on latest banners through Lootbar. Personally, I lost my 50/50 and I just bought the 6,480 Genesis Crystals pack for $76 instead of $100. That's an instant $24 saved. Not only the discount, but the top-up process couldn't be easier. I entered my UID, selected my server, and within 2 minutes, the crystals arrived in my account. Plus, the double bonus for first-time purchases has been refreshed with the anniversary, so you can take advantage of that too. With over 100,000 satisfied users with 5-star rating, it's really my go-to choice for both personal top-ups. And here's a bonus. New users get an extra 10% discount, while returning users can save up to 5%. You can find the link in the description below or in pinned comments, so don't miss out.
So, let's start from the basics first. Linnea is described as a Geo Bow character with a support role focused on lunar crystallize interactions. Yes, it's 99% confirmed now, and she will not be Electro, as per the previous leaks. That already tells you her purpose is not staying on field dealing damage herself. The bow here mainly defines animations and weapon class, not her playstyle. The important part is that she's positioned as an off-field support, meaning her value comes from what she enables while someone else is active. This follows a pattern we've seen many times before, where the strongest supports don't interrupt rotations. They enter the field briefly, apply effects, and leave while their abilities continue working in the background. Looking at her basic kit, the core package being shared includes resistance reduction, a base damage bonus, a team-wide elemental mastery increase, and off-field healing. When you translate that into gameplay language, it means she contributes both offense and comfort at the same time. Resistance reduction increases overall team damage regardless of gear quality, which is why that type of buff tends to age well. The damage bonus layer suggests her buffs are meant to feel consistent rather than burst-dependent, and the EM buff connects directly to reaction-based gameplay instead of pure geoscaling. The healing then completes the package by stabilizing teams that normally rely only on shields or positioning. Now, moving into her skill, the key detail is that it works off-field. That single point shapes almost everything about her gameplay. An off-field skill means she can be used in short rotations without slowing down the main damage dealer. So in practice, the expected flow would be swapping into Linnea, activating her ability, and immediately returning to the on-field character while her buffs and effects continue running in the background. This kind of design usually aims for smooth team rhythm rather than mechanical complexity. Players don't need to constantly return to her to maintain value, which makes her easier to fit into many rotations. Her passives continue reinforcing the same idea. The focus on additional damage bonuses and resistance reduction shows that her kit is built around stacking steady amplification instead of creating new mechanics mid-rotation. That consistency matters especially for players who prefer stable performance over short, high-damage windows. It also suggests that her role is less about personal damage and more about raising the floor of the entire team's output. So when you combine the basic kit, the skill behavior, and the passives together, her general gameplay direction becomes clearer. She enters briefly, sets up buffs, and then supports from the background, while the main carry benefits from increased damage and sustained healing. The emphasis is on uptime and comfort. Teams that want longer field time on their main damage dealer naturally benefit more from the structure because her value keeps running without needing repeated input. This kind of gameplay often feels relaxed but efficient, which is why similar supports tend to see long-term usage. Now, moving into constellations, because this is where her kit starts adding extra layers rather than changing direction. The first constellation is described as similar to Shenhei's quill mechanic. The important detail mentioned alongside it is that the number of quills is limited, meaning this is likely a controlled damage increase rather than something that completely changes rotations. In gameplay terms, it sounds like an additional amplification layer that rewards consistent hits rather than burst damage spikes. Her second constellation adds team-wide crit damage and increases her own burst damage, with notes saying it also improves reaction attack frequency. If that description stays accurate, this constellation would shift her from being purely comfortable support into stronger offensive enabling. Crit damage affects nearly every damage dealer, which is why this type of upgrade feels noticeable immediately. The reaction frequency part suggests smoother triggering rather than higher single-hit damage, meaning teams might feel more consistent instead of simply stronger in short windows. The fourth constellation is described as providing a def buff, but comments around it mention that the increase is not very large. That usually places it as a minor survivability addition rather than a core power spike. It doesn't redefine how she plays, it just adds extra safety. The sixth constellation appears to increase a stat referred to as elevation, while also increasing her burst damage and improving the quill multiplier. In practice, final constellations often amplify existing mechanics rather than introducing new ones, and this sounds consistent with that approach. The core idea remains the same, but the numbers behind it become stronger. Once you look at the full constellation set together, her gameplay direction doesn't really change. She remains an off-field support from start to finish. What changes is how much damage she adds on top of that support role. Early constellations improve team amplification. Later ones push scaling further, but the rotation itself stays familiar. That's usually intentional because it allows players at C0 to experience the intended gameplay without needing investment to make the character functional. Now, looking at player reactions, the response has been largely positive in discussion spaces. A lot of the excitement comes from the idea of a geo support that provides both damage amplification and healing at the same time. Historically, when a character reduces the need for multiple roles in one team slot, interest rises quickly. Some players are excited because it simplifies team building, while others are more cautious, mainly because reaction-focused geo setups are still a newer direction compared to traditional geo playstyles. That mix of excitement and caution is actually very common whenever a support pushes an archetype forward, rather than replacing it entirely. So in overall terms, Linnea's kit direction points toward a support designed for stability and consistency. She improves team damage through resistance reduction and buffs, keeps teams healthy through off-field healing, and allows the main damage dealer to stay active longer without interruption. Her design follows patterns that have worked well for previous long-lasting supports, which explains why discussion around her has grown so quickly even before official details exist. Well, that's everything for today's video. If you want more easy breakdowns like this, where we go beyond speculations, details, and actually explain how characters play in real teams, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. So let me know in the comments what matters more to you here, the comfort she brings to teams or the damage amplification side. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye! Also, Lootbar is offering a special limited 6,480 crystals pack for only $70 compared to the $100 in-game price. That's a $30 saving. New users can still get an extra 10% discount. You'll find the link in the description, so do check it out.